In today's episode, I sat down with Danny Mcgregor, who my good friend Joe Taylor said to me, "You've got to get this guy on the podcast. He's got a mad story to tell." So with no idea what his story was going to be, he took the trip over to see us here in Lincoln. Turns out he's lost over £1 million worth of a property portfolio overnight due to a disaster with his bridging finance. He shares the struggles and pains with what he's been through over the last 3 years. It's a must to listen to so that you know what risks there are when it comes into investing in the world of property. Danny, welcome to the Real Talk podcast.
Nice, good to be here.
Mate, so, a bit of background, bit of context as to why I invited you on was, I don't know your story, and you was about to tell it me out there, and I thought, let's save it for coming in here.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine, Joe Taylor, who you know, said to me, he said, have you had Danny Mcgregor on your podcast? And I went, no. And he said, he's got a mad story, and so get him on. So without any investigation, we booked you in. So tell me this mad story. Tell me about you.
So do you want me to just cut to the chase of the mad story? Yeah?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so basically overnight I lost absolutely everything I built. I've lost about 1.2 in property. A business that I built up that was around about they'd given like a valuation of about $1 million. I'd got investors, we'd got a few deals with land and everything, and over the space of 3 years it round about 3 to 4 million. So it was in a nutshell. It all came down to a bridging loan company.
Okay. So tell us more. I've got to dig deeper now. Okay. I didn't know any of this at all.
So this is the first time I spoke about it like this for probably a good year or so. Mm-hmm. So basically, I was a bricklayer by trade. Yeah. She's a bricklayer,
God's
really
trade.
Good. The one of the best.
It's the only trade.
Well, exactly, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
fuck joiners.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fuck them all, mate.
Princesses.
So, that's it. Absolutely. I was a bricklayer. I knew I wanted to get into property. My dad, he was into property as well, more of a hobbyist kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Prison officer, as we just mentioned.
What are you fucking pointing at me for?
Well, you know what I mean. I always enjoyed the idea of getting property and one thing or another, and I bust my gut up at work, trying to save money. And as a bricklayer, I was doing 70, 80 grand a year as a bricklayer, and then obviously doing the weekend work and stuff like that, it could be more. So, financially things were kind of good then, but I got into property, and the first property I bought, before all of this I didn't know anything about property Facebook groups or anything like that. I know that there's like PPN and that's kind of what I got into, and that was kind of later down the line. But the first property I bought, I actually bought it just on a normal residential mortgage. Mm-hmm. Put £60,000 down as a deposit, and I bought it for 290. But it was sat in about 3/4 of an acre of land, and it was a big detached property. And
was this in Leeds you're from, aren't you?
No, Worksop.
Oh, you're from Worksop?
Yes, good old Worksop. Mm-hmm. Posh end.
No such thing.
So I found this property. It was a freaking brilliant property, and I snapped their hands off. I knew it got some land, I knew it got quite a lot of potential, and it was in pretty sorry state. So managed to buy that. We spent around about 3 or 4 months renovating the actual property itself. Spent about 30 grand on it, I think, and they valued it around about 240 grand, 250 grand, something like that. And at the same time, another property came up just as I'd actually bought that. And this particular property, I worked on it many years ago, and it was an end terrace, and we was asked actually to build a firewall. And as I'm up there, the attic space was massive. And I can always remember, I always said, when this ever comes up, I'm buying that. And not long after I bought the first property, within a couple of weeks, this one came up. Kicking myself. Well, anyway, again, I spoke to an investor. a good friend of mine, and he was like, look, you know, if you want it, go get it, you know, I'll help you get it. So we bought it at auction, 51 grand, and we spent about 70 grand on that, but they valued it at 240 grand. Then I got a couple of bungalows, there were a couple of bungalows, we did a quick flip on them, they were profiting them were about 30-40 grand, and then COVID hit, and so the garden at the first property, the big house, I actually stayed in that whilst I was doing the work. I got kind of a little bit comfortable there, but it wasn't never a home. I never made it, you know, so there's furnishings or anything like that. The intention was always to sell. But then I did the garden, put a heated swimming pool in it, did, you know, completely landscaped it and whatnot. And I spent about another 30 grand on it, and then they valued it at 620. So all in all, you know, I'd got this bit of a portfolio built in space for a couple of years. And then on top of that, I was doing other projects for other investors.
Yep.
And we was doing like a 50-50 split, you know, that kind of thing. So things were kind of good on that bit. And whilst I was doing that, I had a good friend who had got an auction house in Sheffield. And at the time, they was getting all the kitchen appliances and bathroom furniture. And I was putting it in my properties and other developments that I was doing. And
to store them, you mean?
No,
to fit them.
Yeah, to fit them, because I was getting like £1,000 oven for say 50-60 quid.
Oh, nice.
And so when I was doing the bathrooms, again, I was getting pallets of tiles for say 20 quid, freestanding baths for 50 quid. And so when I was putting the costings up on say the Facebook groups, people didn't believe me. They wanted to know how, and so I kept thinking, there's a business here. And so I set another business up. And that's how I met Joe, because Joe came to do a bit of social media for me through Laura Muse. Laura Muse brought him down, and that business in 12 months turned over just over 300 grand. It was in profit, it was a great little business, and we then found another place, 10,000 square foot, and we was going to, you know, put it in there and roll with that. So at that time, everything was great. I decided to sell everything because one of the investors that we got, he wanted, another opportunity came up where I'd got 12 parcels of land, and each one of them bits of land had got either 1 or 2 or 3 properties to build on there. And so the plan was he was going to buy the land and I was going to put in the development costs. So that was great. Put everything up on to sell, everything sold, everything was in conveyancing, and yeah, because I took a bridge out on one of the properties, the COVID had such a knock-on effect. Such a knock-on effect for solicitors, as well as everything else. But in my mind, solicitors just used the bloody excuse of COVID, and so dragged everything on and on and on. Anyway, when our time was up, it was up around about the 21st, the 18th of September, we had to repay the loan. It was evident that one of the first bungalow that the bridge was connected to, it wasn't going to complete in time. Although everybody was pushing and pushing and pushing, it just wasn't going to complete. And so I rang them up to ask to extend, because at the time setting the loan up, they told us we could extend, signed the paperwork where we could extend, gave the rates, everything, and denied it me. Completely denied it me. And from that point in, I knew something was going to happen. I rung my broker up and I said to my broker, they're telling me that they haven't, that they deny me this extension, they're telling me that they haven't given me. He says, well, that's not right. He says, they have, they told you could. So exactly, he says, I'll ring them. So my broker rang them, he rang me back and he says, you're not going to believe this. I says, what? He says, they'll do it as long as I bring them more business. And at that point, I just knew they was going to try and screw me over. And yeah, they did. They did absolutely everything in their power to completely screw me over. And so I lost everything. I lost everything. It was September 2021, it's been 3 years. Obviously, you know, I took the bankruptcy last year, and so that's what happened. Now, in all of that, so basically what happened from there with this brokerage company, we had documents to say that they told us they could extend. Mm-hmm. And so our solicitors got involved to try and get it all sorted, because basically loan to value was like 40%. You know, I wasn't to the high yield. We'd got all these properties all ready to sell. And so basically my solicitors who were dealing with the conveyancing had basically said, look, you know, you've got all these properties and they've got masses of profit in them, take your pick, you know. So the rang says, right, yeah, we want more security, we need more security. And at that time we were like, well, they don't need more security, you can, you know, everything's selling, it's ridiculous. So I says, well look, just give them what they want, and so my solicitor went back and says, right, he's got these properties, take your pick. And so they picked one of the bungalows, and the deal was that if this bungalow was to sell before their bungalow, use the profit from that to pay us back. So it's fine, flipping great. So then they wanted a legal document drawing up between my solicitor, their solicitor, to get that thingy. So my solicitor was bouncing it back, and took about 2 or 3 days. On the last day, my solicitor sent it. It was all proofed, the wording, everything like that. Didn't hear anything. So I left it at that. Anyway, weekend come about. So what I did was I popped to the few bungalows just to check them, and just to keep my eye on them really. And as I get there, there's letters all over one of the bungalows. And I'm thinking, until I paid the tax, until I paid the council tax. I got this letter, I'm thinking, I could basically read it, what it was saying. It was about some kind of debt and this and that. And anyway, I didn't really think much of it, but I went back and I took a picture, sent it to the solicitor. And the next morning, he rang me up and he says, "Are you sat down?" I says, "Yeah." No, he says, "Seriously, sat down?" I says, "Yeah." And Tracy, my PA, she was at the side of me, so I sits down. And his words were, "Danny," he says, "they're going to take you for everything you've got. You are their wet dream." I says, "What are you on about?" He says, "They took you to insolvency." I said, "What?" He says, "They've led us down the garden path. They've taken it to insolvency anyway." He says, "I can assure you now that I've taken this personal." He said, "I'll do whatever I can to try and get you out of this." He says, "But they're going to take you for everything." And I just couldn't get my breath, because everything we'd done to the book. We'd done all the work, everything was done. We did it in quick time. The actual property that they was going on about, I actually was given the keys on that day, posted it on Facebook, because people knew what I did. I sold it straight away. Within 2 or 3 days of actually getting the key, before we'd even started stripping the wallpaper. So we'd got buyer, all lined up. We'd got a good profit margin on it and everything like that. The work and everything was, we smashed the ceiling price by 20 grand on that street. Every property I did, I always smashed the ceiling price. It was just something that I enjoyed to try to do. And so everything was by the book. The only thing we did wrong was put it into conveyancing, and that was it. And that's what everybody has to do. And so at that point, I knew I was up against it, and sure enough, they took the houses. So they were members at that time of called the ASTL, Association Small Term Lenders. And so I rang them and had a quick chat with them, and the lady on the phone was gobsmacked, so much so she put me through to the founder of the ASTL. Yes, I think it was the founder. No, it weren't. It was one of the managers, the hierarchy or whatever in there. And his name was... I'm trying to think of his name because he was brilliant. Anyway, I had a chat with him, and he couldn't believe it. So much so, he wanted all the details, gave him all the details, and then what he did was he called them in. He called the brokerage company in to the office of the director, and basically said to them, "You've put Mr. McGregor right. These are his ways." He said, "I've told them that to put you right because what they've done is wrong. They haven't followed the code of conduct. They haven't followed our rules." He says they've basically pushed you into that position, and we, as an association here, as a thing, will not have it. So much so, we've told them to put you right, and they've walked out. So we've kicked them out the federation. So I said, "Well, thanks ever so much, blah, blah, blah." And he says another thing. He says, "If you take these to court, I'm going to come with you in your defence, and the founder of the ASTL is going to come in your defence." And so I was like, even now, it chokes me up because at that time, I just felt so alone. I felt, I'd lost everything I'd worked for. It wasn't about the money. It's never, good friends and whatnot that know me, it's never been about the money. It's about the success. It's about my little boy, leaving him a legacy, leaving him something. That's what it's always been. And plus I fucking love doing what I do. I absolutely love it. So for them to take all that away, it was a dream. It was a killer kill the dream really, and so from there we gathered a lot of information and we gave it to solicitors and a lot of people stepped in to help. And unfortunately, because they're not FCA registered and it was a bridge, you've got to go through litigation and one thing or another. And the solicitors said, look, in all the years we've done this, he says, in all the years I've done this, I've never seen or heard practices like these. He says, the problem we've got is we don't do this no win, no fee and all that.
Yeah.
He says, you're going to be looking at 50, 60, 70 grand to take these to court. I'd already spent 10 grand just to have them to go through all the paperwork. And so I had to just let it go. I went to court 15 times because my house that I was living in, they was gonna take that. So basically, whilst everything had sold and everything like that, I wanted to carry on. During COVID, I was buying property still because I got friends and family out of work that needed work, and so one of the bungalows I bought. I don't like rentals, can't stand them. No against tenants, but I'm a tenant myself now. It's just not something I get into. But one of the bungalows I bought was basically just to keep them working, just to help them, and so to keep everything going. Whilst I knew I'd got a lot of money coming back. Yeah. As far as I'd made it. Yeah. I'd got land, I'd got properties that we were building, I'd got a fantastic business that was, that had been valued, because to get this property, to get this 10,000 square foot, they valued it at turnover just shy of $1 million, with a profit of 400. So I thought, well, and then my property on side. So I took a loan, a business loan, but I gave a personal guarantee on the back of my residential house. And that was about 3 or 4 weeks before all of this happened, because I knew that one of the houses we were going to sell, and I thought, well, I just need a bit of money just to keep me going, just till tide everything over. And I can remember I was talking about something the other day. I'd got the paperwork in front of me, and I'm looking through and I'm thinking, you're signing life away here. It's a lot of money, but I thought, well, what's the worst can happen? I mean, literally, what is the worst that could happen? Everything was done, everything was sold, everything was in conveyancing. That was it. The hurdles had been jumped. I'd gone through everything I had to get. Yeah. And just gone. Yeah, and that's from what I can remember. I mean, there was a hell of a lot more into it. That bridge company were vile. They did everything they could to move the goalposts.
I mean, it's unregulated, isn't it?
Yeah,
And a lot of people don't realise that.
exactly. And this is why I wanted to come, because so for 2 years I had to go to court 15 times, and I'd got stacks of evidence. The thing with me is I like to tell the truth, whether you like it or not. I'll tell you how it is, because it's just the easiest way I find, you know. And so when I was going to court, the first couple of times, fuck, you think court, you think people in white wigs, you think it was vile, it was horrible. And after a while, I kept thinking I was going to be on the freaking Christmas card list, because you walk into court and you know every bugger there as you're walking in. Hey Dave, how you going? So, Margaret. You walk, you know what I mean? Like when you're walking in a supermarket and it was like that. But the judges were fantastic, because I'd got stuff here and you couldn't make it up. They kept throwing it out. They didn't want to know. They just kept saying, Mr. McGregor, I don't want to see nothing. I can tell you're telling the truth. I can see you're doing everything that you're doing. Because I didn't want to go bust. I decided to try and pay about $5-6 grand a month to keep everything afloat. And it was killing me. It was killing me. The easiest thing to have done, what a lot of people did, was take the bankruptcy at day one.
Yeah.
But the principle was far greater than the easy way out. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to fight these bastards, because if they did it to me, they'll do it to you, and they'll do it to any bugger else. And that is why I did what I did. That is the struggle and the pain and the mental torture that I decided and chose to go through, was that reason and that reason only. I felt they had to be made accountable for what they did. And so for 2 years it dragged. And in the end, you know, which we'll get on to in a bit, a good few friends of mine in property and whatnot just basically said, just take the bankruptcy. I'll JV with you. I will help you in this. And so that was it. I regrettably took the bankruptcy. The best thing I did in the situation, don't get me wrong, but it's a stinking world where all that lot can happen to somebody and you have no way of getting it sorted unless, well, like I said to them, hold on, they've just took everything. I ain't got a pot to piss in. How the hell am I going to pay you 60-70 grand? You've told me it's the worst thing you've ever heard and seen in the years that you've been doing this job. Take them to bloody court. No. It were vile. My business partner, not due to this solely, he took his life. I had to deal with that. We lost my gran through cancer. She, you know, I'm very, very close to my gran. Virtually grew up there, you know, all the time. So, you know, a lot of things were happening, all knock-on kind of things from this, that really, if this hadn't happened, those things that I had to deal with, I could have dealt with. But it just sent, like, that year, that first year was, I have never, ever gone through anything like it, ever.
Yeah.
You know, and so...
Are you married?
Nope, luckily not. Not yet. I wouldn't have been if I fucking were, if all of that had happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like we're missus. So, I mean, I kept my distances from always committing to somebody. I've got a little boy, but committing to me just seemed like once you commit, that's it. You know, you'll not progress in one thing or another. That's daft thinking of it, but that's how it was. And so I built everything up, and the plan was then I'll settle down and I'll be comfortable because I'll have made it. You know, I'll be comfortable. My son will be looked after, and I'll be in a better place. And of course, that'll happen. And then I met somebody in the midst of all of this. Kind of by accident in a way, and things were good. It was a good thing to have at such a bad time. But the issues of what was going killed it. You know, it really killed it. It killed me, and it killed the whole thing, because we couldn't make plans, we couldn't put routes, we couldn't, you know, I was still fighting a battle. You know, as far as I was concerned, I were at war every fucking day. You know.
So if you can think back to that 2-year period, and I don't really want you to spend too much mental time there.
Yeah.
Like how did you deal with? I've got friends in this situation right now, which is why I'm asking.
Well, this is
like, what was your outlet? How do you? I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. What's your outlet? Like, do you punch bag?
No,
is it
right.
no missus? No, not punching the missus. I mean, but you know, some people, like my wife, is my outlet.
Yeah.
When I need to get it out, I rant at her.
Okay, so the beauty of everything that's happened is it taught me things that I never knew were possible. I never knew anything about. And it's brought me closer to people that have gone through the same thing and going through the same thing. Out of anything and everything that ever happens, you've always got to find the positive. That's one thing that I've taught myself is no matter how bad shit gets, find the positive out of it and turn it bigger than what the negative was. Yeah. So,
and that's just a choice, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Because if not, as I say, my partner, you know, committed suicide. You know, over debt, over, you know, a few little bits and bobs that were going on through his life, and you know, it was fucking hard. You know, it was very hard. So as time's gone on, how did I deal with it? Well, the good thing was that since I was 16, I always used to train. Always used to train. I used to bodybuild. I used to love it.
Stopped now, though, yeah?
Do you tell?
Go on, Fatty, tell us the rest. You're going straight to the gym after this now, aren't you?
Just cut that shit out. Let me just do a few press-ups, get me pumped up.
I've been this morning, so I can say it.
So, right, so I used to train. I used to do a bit of, you know, kickboxing, Muay Thai and all this. My dad, he had us doing all sorts. But the gym was one of them that I just 24/7, and I was one of them where if I went to the gym and I seen you or seen her, I'd want to beat you. If you lifted that, I'll lift that more. But I also trained till I'd my nose bust, till there were tears coming out, till I was frothing at the mouth. And you'll know yourself, you train that heavy, you'll do 3 or 4 sets. And your muscles will be tearing and they'll be aching. And I don't give a shit. You ain't trained hard enough if you ain't sweating. If you ain't on that floor dying, you ain't done enough.
I know the feeling, mate. I know that.
Well, but then this is the beauty. So you do that one set, and no matter how much you're sweating, how much you're bleeding, how much you're roaring, and how much pain you're in, and that's the thing. It's the pain. You got another 3 sets. Should do another set. It'll be worse. Then you think, I've got another set. Should do another set. You do another set. Well, that's just for one exercise. You've got to be in there for a good half an hour to an hour, you know. And so that's day in, day out, year on year. So I'm accustomed and I love that pushing and pushing and pushing. And I enjoy the pain. And I think it taught me a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
It taught me that to keep going. No matter how painful it is, no matter how excruciating the physical pain or the mental pain, you only are going to get past it by just keep doing it, and that I think strengthened me for that. Yeah,
there's so many parallels between training and business. I think it's crazy.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to bang up, but I think if I had not have been into the gym in a way that I was, it wouldn't make me as resilient as to how I am now. And like through business, again, it is tough. A lot of people can fold at the slightest little thing. And unfortunately, yeah, you can't be like that, I think. You know, depending what kind of business you're into and all that kind of stuff, you've got to be tough. You've got to be mentally tough.
Yeah.
But for anybody, same as you say, for your friends, I know a few people now that are going through what I'm going through, not to the extent. You know, I know a few people that say the words were, a tenner away from bankruptcy. They were killing it. And it can just go like that. And it can be a shock. And I was having the conversation on a couple of nights, and I was just saying to them, you've got to find a way of rising above it, getting through it. By finding the positives. So they had got another business that they used to do a few years back, and he was telling me his profit figures, and I'm like, dude, that's better than average Joe. That's better than anybody on the street. Don't worry about what the figures are because they're not through property. Fuck the property. Look at the figures you've got. Expand on that. That is enough to keep your head going forward. Instead of just sitting there thinking, I can't do another one. Because I know in time they will get back where they were. I think just will.
Yeah, I mean, you just touched on it there, and I want to cut in because I think this is an important thing for people to hear my opinion on. I think a property business is one of the hardest fucking businesses to build if you look at it as a business.
Yeah.
I think my true belief is property should be an outlet from a business. So you build a trading business, be it bricklaying, be it building, be it fucking selling TVs, whatever that is.
Yeah.
That business profit should then be used. I say should, that's probably the wrong word. Like what I would do is take that business profit and invest that into property.
Yeah.
And work on your core business.
Yeah.
And I think that there's so much rhetoric and dialogue out there that property is an easy business to build, and it's it comes with low risk, and financial freedom's easily achievable, and you can become a millionaire in a fucking month, and all of that. Whilst that may be technically true and technically possible, it's extremely fucking unlikely for the majority of people on this planet.
I would like to say, here and now, because again, this is the reason why I wanted to come, is it's all a load of bollocks. It is. It's a load of bollocks. Because, you see
I think I was more eloquent than you.
Well, the thing is, you see these courses, it's like, like I say, the Facebook group that I was on, everybody, and this is why I did what I wanted to do. This is why I wanted to come out here and give the talk and put myself out there, because, it's not an easy talk. Lost everything, I'm bankrupt. It's fucking, believe you me, it's not an attractive or appealing fucking resume when you're trying to, date and one thing or another. But the worst thing I couldn't deal with is knowing that you could go through it, anybody could go through it, and it's because none of them talk about it.
No.
Oh, it's all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a course, it's great. Yes, you'll earn thousands, you'll do this, you'll do that, yeah, you will. But you'll also come unstuck if you don't do it right. And like you said, going through whatever job you've got, I think people should go kind of at their own speed. They call it the pillars of income and multi-streams of income and one thing and another. I agree with that completely. I think getting into property, unless you've been given £1 million or a good substantial amount to be able to come out of work and focus on it, then don't. Carry on doing what you're doing to bring in your money. And use whatever you've got to get into property at a pace that is.
It's in alignment with the success of your trading business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you don't start a trading business, make 20 grand in your first year and then go buy £1 million asset.
No.
For me, that's just complete disparity.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot do. I mean, I always used to say in my lane, I was brought up. We never had anything. We wasn't given fucking thousands of pounds, as an ent and all this kind of crap. We had to work. I've had to work. I was at work since I was 11 or 12, on a bloody farm, and that kind of thing. And even as a bricklayer, I was doing all right. But I've kind of lost where I was going now. But it took me years, to see that, to get where I was in order to be able to get into property. I'd done all this work for everybody else. I had got more experience in property than a lot of these people that just go, oh, fuck me, I've got a bit of money, I'm going to go and buy about 10 properties, I'm going to quit work, it'll be great. It was, sometimes look at it and think, it's balmy. I used to stay in my own lane. That's what we're saying. I used to stay in my own lane. And I used to see a lot of people doing what they were doing. And again, I was talking about this the other day. You know, somebody doing rent to rent or somebody doing HMOs, and they'd be going, oh, this is great, I'm making thousands, blah, 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 blah. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit what you're doing. I knew I could flip and I could find properties far better than anybody, because they were all pissing in the same pot. They'd all been, oh, yeah, we're going to Sheffield. Yeah, we're going to Donny. We're going to, you know what I mean, Nottingham. I'm thinking, you fucking all go over that way. They're charging you ridiculous amounts of money for it. And yet, our pit villagers, they're the best. They were the best. I mean, I bought, as I say, 51 grand, it were a 3-bed. I turned it into a 6-bed, 4-bathroom. They valued it at 240 bloody grand. I mean, it were 100 and odd grand shoving profit on it. That was just on kind of one, you know. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. I didn't care what anybody else did. Yeah, there was. Yeah, you get a lot of flash gits, you know, thinking, you know, they're getting it and whatnot. Yeah, never interested me. I was always in work gear. You know, I was always in work gear. Never had a decent car.
Yeah.
You know, it was only at the point when I'd be striking up deals with, you know, investors, and things were kind of going in the right direction, that I thought my £500 Ford Escort bloody hatchback thing with profiles in back and what, I can't notch up any more like that.
Yeah.
So I had to go and get, but I spoke with the accountant. Anything and everything I did, I spoke with the accountant. You see, that was the other thing as well. I forgot to tell you this. This was the best bit. So when the loan company did what they did, the accountant and the insolvency company, so basically the loan company did what they did, and within overnight the insolvency company straight at me, and the accountant says, no, that can't be right, there's something not right here. I said, what do you mean? He says, something not right. He said, I'm going to speak with a colleague of mine, a contact that I've got. So anyway, he sent it to a company called Bigby's Trainer. Bigby's Trainer. They're the country's biggest insolvency company. They're huge. They handle multi-million pound companies. It would just so happen that his friend was the director or one of the directors or whatever of this company. And he had a look at it, you know, look at some of the paperwork from the insolvency company. And basically what the insolvency company had done is they tried to write me out of an important meeting to disperse the monies. And they rang him up. He says, no. He says, he's got a case against these now. He says, because they shouldn't be doing that. He says, he's separate. He says, there's him himself, because he lent money and whatnot. There's the business that they're trying to take the properties off. But then he's got his buying and selling business. So in effect, what they should be doing is he should be sat in a meeting, and then when they come on to about the property business, asking him to leave. He says, they wrote it in there that he's not to be in there. So anyway, my accountant told him everything, what had happened. And he says, no, he says, something's not right. He says, I tell you what, we'll act on his part for nothing. And they did. They absolutely slammed the insolvency company, and the insolvency company hated it. Caused some rate shout with them. Well, anyway, they did a bit of research, a bit of thingy, and they found out the insolvency company and the bridge company years ago were the same company.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah. One of the directors used to be a director for the loan company, and he went off and did whatever he did.
That stinks, that, doesn't it?
Proper.
Have you ever thought about
Do you know how much they
revisiting?
made on? Do you know how much they made on me?
Go on.
120 grand. That insolvency company. That's why they did what they did. They gave the loan company an extra 20 grand. Yeah.
Do you ever think about revisiting it?
I could. I mean, I'd love to. You know, I could, but because there's so much more information that, you know, coming over here, it's been a long journey, 3 years to get to here. You know.
I'm gonna get a faster car, mate. Workshop's like 40 miles away.
I should have parked it further in the corner, round back of that tree. Yeah, it's been a long journey. It's been 3 years to get to it. And, you know, I forget a lot. I forget quite a few bits of it. We've got the paperwork, we've got all of that. But, yeah, the main bulk of it was, you know, it comes down to the fact that they just completely they saw an opportunity. We feel, the solicitors felt, the solicitors dealing with the conveyancing of the properties, the baby's trainer and my accountant, and as well as, say, the ASTL, they all feel that they just seen an opportunity. And what I didn't do was bow down to them. You see, what they wanted me to do was, they wanted me to give him 10 grand. And I says, well, what for? He says, well, it's default charges. I said, well, I'm not defaulted. Ah, but you have. You have. I says, I haven't defaulted. I'm still in term, pal. I says, you've got it on your paperwork that I've got a bloody extension thing at 2.5% or whatever it is. No, yeah. No. And they wanted me to pay him 10 grand. I said, you can bollocks. I said, I ain't paying you nothing. I says, that's the contract, that's what it is. And so then I rung the broker. He says, no, that's not right. He said, I'll ring him. And so, as I say, going back to what, yeah. You bring us more business, we'll sort it out.
Wankers.
Fucking unbelievable. Proper just, yeah. Overnight, 1.2 million just gone like that in property. I mean, if we sell...
But what are you doing now then?
Well, OnlyFans at minute.
Yeah? Going well?
That's why I've got my Spanish tan back. So now, we set the business, as I say, the buying and selling business back up. My partner unfortunately had a few issues and he did what he did. So that, I stopped with that. And then I started thinking, you know what, I knew I could do it all over again. I knew I could do it better. I knew I'd done it, it only took me 2 years. From start to that, 2 years. And I'd amassed what I had. And I thought, right, you've got to get back out there. And so I started going back to some of the property events and whatnot. And like I say, a couple of folk stood in my corner. And one particular, he offered me a lifeline. And yeah, so we set about, getting some plans together. We've done some work and we set, he set a business up in kind of property renovations and maintenance and whatnot. And I've been working with him to get this up and running and everything. And it's been absolutely fantastic. I've done far better this year than, previously, yeah.
What's the future hold now?
Well, as it stands at the minute, all being well, it'll be property. It'll be property. So as it's now, I'm 3 days away from the bankruptcy. I've got to start again.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for a fact, nothing will fucking stop me. Yeah.
And what does that look like? 5 years' time, what are you going to be saying?
5 years' time, I'll be back here, a fucking multi-millionaire again. I'll tell you fucking that for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's one thing that nobody will ever take, and that's your belief. And these.
Yeah.
I know, as a bricklayer, like I said, you'll know. I could lose everything. I'll lose it all again tomorrow. I'll go and pick my trowel up. I'll earn $2 grand a week. Don't bother me. It's hard on my body, but no bugger will ever stop me earning money. But better than that is my head. The best thing everybody used to say to me, you can't do it. I thought, I'll fucking show you then, pal.
Yeah.
And I'd go and do it.
Yeah.
I had a bistro, a coffee house in probably the worst place ever, in Creswell. Everybody said it never worked. I sold it a year later for 70 grand, the business. I just did it because I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed the fact that somebody said they couldn't do it or you couldn't do it. And, I'd go and do it.
If you was to do it all, last question, if you was to do it all again, what would you do different?
Nothing else, Paul. What would I do? So again, because I'm you know, people say this, but I go back and I think, well, what did I do wrong last time? I mean, as far as I was concerned, and everybody else, I didn't do anything wrong.
That wasn't my question.
Oh.
I said, what would you do different?
I thought, right. What do you mean, in business or just with that situation?
Well, the point where it all started going peak tongue.
Yeah.
What would you do different? Knowing what you know now, looking back, what would you do differently?
Okay. What would I do different? I'd have paid them the 10 fucking grand.
Would you?
But, you see, and it's like this. You say that, you're paying the 10 grand. But I wouldn't know if they'd have honoured that still. Because everything we did they just kept moving the goalposts.
Yeah.
So there was no trust there. So, you know, it's easy, I'll just pay 10 grand. But knowing actually how they were, what would I do different? I mean, I want to fucking took the bloody loan, I tell you now.
Wouldn't you?
No. I want to took the big loan. The loan that I took a few weeks before. The one with the personal guarantee. I want to took it. Because that was the downfall of losing the residential house. That was the downfall. Because that caused a lot of grief.
Let's just touch on that, actually.
Yeah.
You gave a personal guarantee on a loan and lost your house.
Yeah.
I think people give out personal guarantees like fucking confetti. Like they think it's not going to ever be exercised, or
yeah. Well, so
I do think people think that.
Yeah. Well, I think
like they don't carry any credence or any power or anything.
So
just stick a PG on it, mate. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the best bit. You know. So bearing in mind, I lost everything. You know, all personal and all that kind of stuff. One of the investors, although I'd done a couple of bits with him, thought I'd done it on purpose. That was the best thing. I rung him up. I had to park up. As soon as I know exactly what was happening, I parked up in a field lay-by and rung him up because he's a very clued up guy. He used to be a solicitor. This was why I rang him, because my thought process, well, we're in business together. You know, we've got this thing going on. I'm potentially going to lose everything here. And unfortunately, he was potentially going to lose his investment. Well, I didn't want that. I didn't want anybody to lose out. And that's why I went through court. That's why I dragged everything out. But on the day all this was happening, I rang him up for advice. And the first thing he said was, I think you've done it on purpose. And I was like, what? I was fucking fuming.
I'll bet.
Fuming. And so, you know, that kind of relationship kind of soured as time was going. It did help, try to help, you know, get things in perspective, one thing or another, but it was too late. The personal guarantees are most definitely not to be sniffed at. I think a lot of time now is where, you know, you have these limited companies and they think they're untouchable because it's a limited company. That is the shit where it don't matter. The limited company is nothing. You may as well bloody whatever, I don't know, call it whatever, call it chuffing, or get it off of Frosties, back of a chuffing cereal box, because that's about as important as that is now. Everything, as far as I believe, and from what I've seen over the last few years, everything now wants personal guarantees. Even private investors and one thing or another all want PGs, unless you can offer them something better. Unless they know you and you can see that you've been at it and you're in a position. I've got a good friend who is in a position to say bollocks to that. I ain't giving you that, but what I'll give you is this.
Yeah.
So I think. Anybody watching this, hopefully, will sit and listen and be gobsmacked to what happened. People can have an opinion. I always think, well, we could have done this, you could have done that. No, dickhead. I did what I did at that bloody time in that moment to suit what I was doing. Everything worked out, everything was done. We did the bloody projects, we smashed all the ceiling prices, our profits were sky high through it. As far as I'm concerned, we gave it conveyancing. And that was that. I was done. All in time, all fine, dandy. But yeah, I hope, they look at it and think, just regarding the bridging companies and one thing or another, just do your due diligence on them and find out. The worst thing we did was the contract.
What a great point, though, you've just raised there.
Right. So, because it comes back to, as I say, so we did with the bridging, so what we did was, we did video calls, video conferences. Oh, this was the other thing. Oh, God, yes, I remembered. We asked them for the, what do you call it? Come on, when you request all the information and everything.
Request for information. Freedom of information.
Yeah, but what do you call it? I can't remember. Anyway.
Subject access request.
That's it. Subject access. I love that thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Anyway, now I always use it. So, subject access request. On there, when we set all this up, because we had video conference calls, voice record, video calls and all that, emails, telephone conversations and all that kind of stuff. When it come down to requesting that, they'd lost it. They'd lost it. They sent certain bits and bobs. I said, oh, no. I want the video of you telling me all about this contract that you've sent me, that you've signed, that you've ticked, that you've told me all of that. Where's the video for it? Because it was done on video. Yeah, we've lost it.
Amazing. How convenient.
Fucking brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So, whenever it comes to these, just because I believe, and that was the downfall I had. What I'd do differently, I'd read the bloody contract. That's what I'd have done.
Yeah.
Going back to that. Because they told me everything. Absolutely everything that I wanted to hear.
We trust in them as an institution, though, don't we?
Well, you do. They've got really bright lights, they've got all this, they've got paperwork, they've been running years, they've got all these, good reviews and,
You just said something there a minute ago. You said, I wish I'd have carried out some due diligence on the lender. I've never, ever, in all my years, heard anyone say that.
Oh, God, yeah.
But lenders do that to us as borrowers.
Yeah.
But we don't do that on them.
Yeah, you should. I do now. I mean, it's changed the way I look and trust companies. Not so much people, companies. And especially in that kind of line of work. Because if I had have done, I think things may have changed the decisions to go with them. Because there was other bridging companies that were flipping brilliant with me. They heard what was happening and they wanted to step in and help. They were brilliant. It was just them robbing Gates. And so, yeah, they'll tell you everything. They'll give you all the paperwork. They'll give you this, that, da-da-da-da-da. But if you don't read that contract, they can send you anything and everything they want. But it's pointless. Because it's what is in the actual contract. And that is where they screwed me over as well, so we think. Because a lot of the bits, they didn't even put in the contract. So they led me to believe all of this stuff. It wasn't even in the contract.
Do you hold the broker responsible at all?
Absolutely not.
No.
No, the broker was, I've known him many years. We've done, good things together. And, I mean, I don't hold him responsible at all. He was a friend, still is a friend. He bent over backwards to try and get everything sorted. And I know for a fact if it went to court tomorrow, he'd be there within an heartbeat to give his evidence and whatnot. He has a job to do like anybody else, and he wouldn't have known anything. He'd have done as much as what he would have done for the next customer or client or whatever as what he did with me. I could never hold him responsible for that, never.
Mate, Joe was right, what a story.
Balmy, innit? Yeah.
Onwards and upwards though, eh?
Yeah. So, onwards and upwards. I mean, yeah, it's hard at the minute. But, yeah. All right, so, yeah. So, yeah, whether you cut this bit out or whatever like, but so onwards and upwards, as I say, working in the background. Well, I have helped a couple of guys, that were fledgling businesses. They wanted to set up. One was a maintenance guy, Another one wanted to get into the buying and selling and whatnot. And I seen an opportunity from the beginning, because what happened was the guy doing the maintenance stuff was actually doing work for Kevin McDonald, and he didn't realise who he was or anything. And so he was doing quite a lot of his refurbs and maintenance stuff and all that kind of thing. And I said to him, I says, you know, who are you doing it for? And he says, oh, it's this Kevin guy from Worksop. I says, Kevin what? He says, Kevin McDonald. I says, you know who he is? He went, no idea. I said, I know he's got a few properties. So he's got a few properties. Oh, yeah. So anyway, he was asking me to help him do some work, because essentially the construction side of stuff and the top end maintenance kind of thing, he didn't really know. You know, painting a wall and one thing and another, and what, great. And so the more work I was helping him with, the more he was getting. And before we knew it, we was doing quite well. And then my other friend, he's done fantastic in property, but he wanted to get in the buying and selling. And so I was helping him with that, you know, getting all that up and running. And I could see these two, because he was high in property and he'd got a refurb he asked me to do. And on this side, I'd got him who was doing the maintenance thing, and I could see the potential with these, so I joined them together. I was like, you two are missing a trick. You know, I'm in the middle here, and we need to bring it together. I says, because we've got something here. And so we did, and I think in the space of 8 months, I think they've turned over 200 or 300 grand in the space of 8 months. They've got 3 land deals with probably 30 houses to be built on them. We've got quite a lot of work in the pipeline for a lot of landlords doing refurbs and maintenance, and they've also got a good couple of refurbs that they've personally purchased, you know, to get on the way. I mean, if you know they want me to step in later on, and then I'm sure I'll be more than happy to do so. But yeah,
Class in 3 days. Love it.
Probably not put this bit out, but I'm proud.
Yeah, you should be, mate. Should be well done.
Yeah, I'm fucking proud. It's been hard work. I mean, you know, it's been hard work. And, you know, as I say, I wanted to come because I probably won't speak about this on anywhere else. I probably won't want to, because it brings, you know, the mental health side of things and all that kind of bollocks. You know, it's awful. I've been counselling and all that kind of stuff to get through it. But all I've ever wanted to do is just help anybody else. And this just seems like the best way to do it. You know, I'd hate for anybody else to go through it. So,
mate, thanks for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you for letting me tell my story.
3 years, a long way.
3 years is a long way.
Thanks for sticking around till the end. All the social handles from both of us are below. I'll see you in the next one.